Yes. Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Miss Dawson,
Here.
Miss Harrington,
Here.
Mr. Rickett.
Here.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
Thank you. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
From what was posted, Ms. Anderson, the student presentation will be at the next meeting, as well as the students. We heard from Ms. Fines, and the students who were coming to address the vaping resolution are also coming for the next meeting.
Okay.
So those two items are off of the current agenda based on what was posted Thursday.
May I, is there any others? Sorry. Nope. May I have a motion to approve with amended?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Moving on, closed session. Ms. Dawson.
Pursuant to 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel or the performance of a division employee as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees and the superintendent's evaluation. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the school board regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel as authorized by 2.2-3711A8 of the Code of Virginia.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
We're in closed session. This meeting back to order. Ms. Dawson, may I have closed session certification, please?
Whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by this board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Orange County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Byram, may I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Miss Dawson,
Aye.
Miss Harrington,
Aye.
Mr. Rickett.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies, reading the wrong line. Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 4 yes votes and no votes. The resolution is approved by a 4-0 vote.
Deposition of personnel actions, Dr. Hornick?
Yes, ma'am. Recommend approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
May I have a motion?
I move to approve the personnel agenda to include retirement, resignation, employment, and transfer of staff, and coaching appointment.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Dr. Hornick, action items, please.
Yes, ma'am. We come this evening to request approval for a multi-day field trip for our FFA. And you can see the head of the state convention. And this is in June. And we would certainly be willing to accept approval this evening if you all are willing to do so.
I would make a motion to approve this request.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, or
Thank you all very much.
good luck on the field trip.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a really great one for our students.
Yeah.
As well as our instructors.
Comprehensive.
Quite
Yes.
honestly, it's good across the board.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next in recommendations, I'd like to bring Ms. Dawson forward as we maneuver through crafting a streamlined and revised staff leave and attendance regulation to go along with our policy. We noticed an area that was ripe for an opportunity to do a little bit better by our employees. And so Ms. Dawson did some tremendous work and has one more addendum that we would like the board to consider. And so, Yvonne, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hornick, Madam Chair, members of the board. Like Dr. Hornick said, when we finally got this all in one place, and then as we were looking through it, it occurred to me that under annual leave, we could make this better, and we could make this more friendly for our employees. And so you'll see line number 4, the part that Laura has taken out, it says the maximum accumulation for annual leave is 40 days. Any days beyond the maximum accumulation on June 30th will be forfeited. So that was really impacting our staff members. And keep in mind, annual leave is only for 12-month employees, so we're talking a very small amount of our staff members. But we're penalizing them for not taking time off. And I wanted to come up with a way of, incentivizing people that are already doing this, and how can we make this more friendly for our employees. So what I'm proposing is that we change the wording to the maximum accumulated carryover for annual leave is 40 days. So that stays the same. But where we change it, any days beyond the maximum accumulated annual leave as of July 1 will be converted to sick leave. So instead of staff losing their annual leave, so if I get to July 1 and I've got 50 days on the books, well, right now I'd lose 10 of those, and I wouldn't get any more days even though I'm entitled to them for the new school year. So this is saying, as of that time, my 10 days is going to roll into sick, and I'm going to get my annual leave that I'm entitled to, and then I can use that throughout the school year. And keep in mind Payout currently is 30 days maximum for vacation, and that has no stipulation. That just means if I leave and I've got 30 days on the books for vacation, I get paid out those 30 days. I would like for us to incentivize that as well, and keep that at 30 days for employees with less than 20 years of experience with Orange County Public Schools, and anyone who has 20 or more years, we would bump that up to 40 days that they would get compensated for.
Do we pay out annual leave as well?
That is what this is, annual leave.
You said vacation, so.
It's annual vacation, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, yep.
So annual vacation is the same thing.
It
and
is.
Sick is different.
Sick is different. So we have 3 buckets. We have personal leave, which employees they get 2 personal days a year. They can accrue up to 5. Anything over 5 goes into sick, so they don't lose it. Your sick leave, you get, depending on your contract, if you're 10 months, you get 10, 11, 11, 12, 12. And then for annual leave, it's 12 days a year, because it's only for 12-month employees. So if you leave, you get your annual leave paid out, currently up to 30 days. For sick leave,
Leave the district.
if you leave the district, yes. For sick leave, you get pay out if you retire from Orange County Public Schools and the Virginia Retirement System. And you get paid out at a rate of 25% of your daily rate at the time of retirement. Does that make sense?
Is there any time, I mean, if, say you don't take all of your time and you get that additional time rolled over into sick leave, are you able to take it in a block as if it is personal or vacation leave, or do you actually have to be sick to use it?
Well, keep in mind, sick leave can be for doctor's appointments, eye appointments, anything that is related to your health can be used for sick. Certainly if someone needs some time off and that's all they have in that bucket, we can certainly work with them. But the people that are going to fall into this category are going to have annual leave and sick leave and personal leave.
And anyone that falls within that bucket, the superintendent or supervisor of that person, if it would negatively impact the division, has the ability to authorize or not?
Correct. We try really hard not to deny leave.
Right.
But there have, I can think of one time this year where we ended up having to close a classroom because we didn't have coverage. And so so we try really hard, though, not to have to do that.
I truly believe if they've worked for it and they haven't been able to take it, it's probably because we needed their services and they deserve to have that available to them in some capacity. So thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
So they would be capped at 40.
They would be capped at 40 as of July 1, okay? So if I had 50, 10 of those days are going to go into my sick leave bucket, okay? For me personally, I get 18 days a year because of the amount of time that I've been here. I would still get my 18 days, yes. Whereas right now,
18 days.
whereas right now you do not.
So you didn't use, so let's say you don't use your 18 days. And you don't use your 18 days for 2 years. Are you banking the 36?
It's going in my sick leave.
Okay. How much can you bank on sick leave?
So for non-hybrid, there's no maximum. For hybrid, it's 120 days.
120 days.
Yep.
And there's no use it or lose it type of penalty under this scenario now?
No, it's not. Nope.
All right, so what?
Actually, I need to think about that, Jack, because it was a cap for hybrid when hybrid first rolled out through VRS, because hybrid we had to provide short and long-term disability for. So the cap was 90. We now provide short and long-term disability for everyone. So I'm going to have to look that up and let you know. Actually, it's probably right here in front of me, and I just need to read it. Yeah, give me just 1 second. So there's no cap for earning, there is a cap for payout. So Plan 1 and 2 paid at 25% of the current daily wage rate. Hybrid will be paid for no more than 120 days at 25% of the current daily wage rate. But remember, their hybrid, their whole retirement platform is different than a legacy employee through VRS.
So you like this plan, you're comfortable with this plan?
Yes, I think it definitely shows that we support our employees. It shows that we value them. I'll give you an example. We have a head custodian who fits into this category. And it's not that he doesn't want to take the time off. It's the fact that we haven't been fully staffed and he hasn't been able to, and his work ethic is such that it means a lot to him to keep the building clean. And in order to do that, he comes to work every day. So those are the employees that I don't want to penalize. I don't want to take their time that they've earned.
No, completely agree. You know, I don't even think that you've been here long enough. So in the past, there was a scenario that actually ended up in a legal case where days rolled. This is 20-some years ago. Days rolled in there. But anyway, long story short, you're comfortable with this and feel like this is the right thing to do?
I absolutely do.
Dr. Hornick, you agree?
I do, sir.
All right, I'm good. I just I more gave you the example of I wanted you to understand why am I having these conversations. So
Absolutely.
there is a reason. I agree. People earn their time, and it is their time, and it's not their fault that we can't spare them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Thank you, members of the board. Next, I believe, is Dr. Honaker for the presentation of the FY26 Perkins funding. Is that correct, Renee?
Yes, sir.
Followed by Susan.
Good evening. I'm coming before you tonight to request permission to apply for our Carl Perkins funds for the next school year. The amount that's shown up here is $99,000, which is about what the grant was this year, and it's probably going to be right around that next year. When we complete our application, we have to use the previous year's total because we don't know what the total is going to be for next year, and then I'll have to do an amendment. We don't plan any huge changes to what we normally ask for. We plan to take that money and split it up between professional development for our teachers. And also, we support some activities of our transition specialist who works with our students with special needs in their transition to the workforce. And then the majority of our funds, around $80,000, we plan to put in the category of equipment for our classrooms. Any questions? It's a pretty simple grant. There's not.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a time-sensitive application?
It's due at the end of April.
May I make a motion to approve at this point?
Yep. Go right
Thank
ahead.
you.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ms. Ayler?
Good evening. I'm here to ask for approval to apply for our annual plan for special education, which involves our 619 funds, which are our preschool, so students ages 2 to 5, and then our 611 funding, which is usually referred to as 6B. In the report, it indicates that we have implemented the plan as written from the 23-24 school year. The plans are written so that you have 2 years in order to execute what you've put into the plan. This looks very similar to what we've done every year for a long time. But I've broken out, and again, ours is also an estimate based on this year's funding, which was about $1.2 million. Most of our funding goes into special education staff, instructional assistants, specialists, We also use some for contracted services and some for professional development. You'll see in the special education budget, it's also broken down by CEIS, which are early intervening services, and then proportionate set aside, which is for students, if we have students who qualify as a student with a disability and they decide they wanted to go homeschool, we offer them an individual service plan. And in that service plan, we are required to provide certain services for those students. So that's, the money actually comes from this proportionate set aside amount that's calculated through the state. And it's based on the number of students we have on an individual service plan against the total of the budget. At the end of 2 years, though, or in June of the second year, if you haven't spent all your proportionate set-aside money by June 30, you can request that it be moved into your regular fund, and then you can spend it, and you have till September 30 of that year to spend it. So that's kind of the difference in why there are a couple different columns there. The next page is our preschool funding, which is much smaller. We can use our 6B funding on with preschool as well, because preschool you'll see is only about $31,400 a year. And we use this for an instructional assistant, some specialty evaluations. Sometimes it's for special equipment that students might need, and classroom materials and child find activities, which are where we're looking for it's our job to seek in the community, are there students that we believe may have a disability, and then to evaluate them. Under that, you'll find maintenance of effort, and this is something that is always in the annual plan for special education. And basically what it means is each year for special education, we have to spend the same amount that we've spent this year. We have to spend at least that next year, if not at least $1 more. And that way it's historically to make sure that school divisions aren't taking away services because of a funding issue. So there are several scenarios that you can use if, say, we had a large number of students graduate and then we had some staff that retired and it was just a natural reduction in force. If we had a situation like that, that's an exception that they would approve, but there's only 4 of those exceptions throughout in IDEA. And then the last thing that we do is we provide services at Central Virginia Regional Jail. So for inmates who are ages 18 to 22 who come in and don't have a high school diploma, they're interviewed to find out if they were a student who received special services in high school. If they were and they would like to continue their education, then we enroll them and then obtain their records from their school division and provide services. I will say most of the time we get to the interview process and then the inmate has left because people aren't staying at CVRJ for a really long time. We've had a couple situations where we have provided some services for students, but it's not something that happens on a real regular basis. But the interviewing process does happen on a regular basis. And actually, the Central Virginia Regional Jail budget is a different budget that the state provides for us. So it doesn't come out of our total, but they are services we have to provide.
That was my next question. Thank you for answering it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So basically, most of our funding for our jail budget goes to pay the person that interviews the inmates.
But we never get to the stage of educating the inmate.
Not typically. This is my 11th or 12th year back in Orange, and I want to say we have maybe serviced 5 in that time. The turnover at the jail is just, it happens so frequently that they're not there.
Any questions?
Does that include juvenile detention type facility also?
No, because there's not a juvenile detention facility within our borders, so it's only what's here in Orange County.
Okay, thank you.
Are you expecting, so mental health has been cut from the federal government. So we don't get a ton of money from the federal government. We get our money from the state and our locality. But that being said, the federal government does fund the state, which then, okay, as longer than I have, so I can stop right there. Do you anticipate any issues with funding in reference to everything? And it's a broad brush I'm painting with everything that you oversee?
I have not heard of any cuts, in particular to any IDEA funding. I have heard of absolutely no cuts whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
So, Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you very much.
And that's all this evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, and members of the board.
Thank you, Dr. Hornick. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to board member items. I believe I didn't skip any, did I?
Nope.
Okay, good, thank you. So as of today, the Orange County School Board will be accepting letters of interest for District 4 residents. The letters should include the candidate's reason for wanting to serve on the school board and cite their qualifications for that service. So anybody that's listening or in the room that would like to apply, please send your information to Laura. Ms. Byram would be able to consolidate all of that and get those to the board, and then we can move forward. So, all right? Okay.
And we'll be posting that on our,
Yes, and there, we will be posting a letter to the website for all of that information as well. So, all right, the Piedmont Regional Education Program report.
All right. At our last meeting, we approved the budget for the coming year for Piedmont Regional Education, and it's about $4.8 million. But our Orange County portion of it is $38,531.97. Since we do not use the day school, we use Assistive Technology and Parent Resource Center, and that's what that amount will pay for. So that's been approved. Our executive director, Mrs. Angela Neely, we are sad to say, will be leaving us, so we're searching for her replacement. And that job position is posted on the Fluvanna County website, since they're the fiscal agent for the prep schools. So anybody out there, executive director for prep is needed.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Future agenda items. Do we have any? Go ahead, Jack.
do you want me to say what?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can talk about, it's a future agenda item, so.
Okay. The only thing I will be bringing up in the future or request to add is looking at a possible time change for some of our meetings. Shouldn't y'all be applauding right now?
Depends on which way you're going.
Early AM is what we're thinking.
It's all right.
I know, they're all up at that time.
Yeah, they are.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not under future. board.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Ms. Dawson, no, you're good? All right, so board member comments, is there any items you would like to discuss? Or bring to everyone's attention, I guess.
I do have one item I'd like to present and get support on, not necessarily an action item, but something that we can discuss and determine whether or not the board would like me to proceed. I have developed a memo to be taken to our legislatures if appropriate, and if the board agrees with that. First of all, to Senator Reeves, because Senator Reeves, based on my research, which may be accurate, has agreed and originally was in support of a legislative piece called SB 1307, which would allow the county of Orange, or any county that is interested within the state, to take a local referendum forward to override the governor's current veto on SB 1307. And SB 1307 would allow any county to, again, set that referendum on their own with no state oversight or funding or anything attached, and take it to their constituents to see if there is a majority in favor of applying a 1-cent sales tax to those items within the county. It can be crafted in different ways. So, for example, you could choose not to add that 1 cent to food items that you might buy, groceries, something to that extent. The reason that I'm trying to push this forward is because the governor did veto it, and we've had conversation I had just the other night with one of the legislatures is that this was vetoed by the governor, and there wasn't currently a lot of political will to fight that veto, and they were going to just let this go forward. I think that we deserve to bring this back to our county so that we let our local constituents and voters make that decision. Are they interested and willing to make a choice between the ability to further finance public education, specifically school construction, or do they want that not to be taken forward? In that case, this money would come out of the current funding available that the county may have, or through a different type of mechanism such as a bond. So I'm open to conversation and would hopefully get your support in that.
I have a question. When is the next legislative committee meeting?
The next legislative committee meeting is April 10th, I believe. I don't have that in front of me, but I believe it's April 10th. I was just looking at the...
Those are typically Zoom, right?
It's typically Zoom. Absolutely. I can definitely forward the time and date. And I think at a future point in time, we will be talking about someone to replace Ms. Quintern in that capacity as the second person on that committee. My concern is I do not believe that we have the time available to wait until we are able to personally advocate on the 10th. They are currently in the legislative session to determine whether they are going to approve amendments that the governor may be presenting, or to look at any vetoes, and right now they are not.
Good. I absolutely agreed with your letter, and I have no problem, from my perspective, sending it. I would like to get feedback from our own citizens in whether or not they feel a referendum is, something they want to look at. But I very much appreciate. But thanks for all of your work and Chelsea's work on the legislative committee as well. It's extremely important. That being said, so the LCI formula, which Dr. Hornick has gone through a number of times, to me, that is the most important piece.
Absolutely.
So we need our state elected officials to take a look at that and be able to have some conversations in the future.
And I was able to have a conversation with both Mr. Reeves and Mr. Freitas last week. Myself and the chair, Ms. Anderson, were able to talk to them as far as what the current political will within the legislature is to address the JLARC's recommendation as to amend or change the LCI funding formula, the SOQ formula that we currently operate under, and it's not going to happen in this legislative session. So again, they're not going to do what they need to do, what we hope that they will do, and this would give us some relief in some manner and additional funding source for hopefully going forward with CTE programs and other things that we may need.
I have concerns. And I've only had today to look at it, because I thank you for sending it and bringing it to my attention. So I went digging as much as I could into the history of this bill, and I read Governor Youngkin's veto of it, and a couple things stick out to me. One of them is that there is no end game written into the law, meaning once that it's passed, it doesn't go away. Typically, when has a tax that's been implemented ever been taken away? So it ends up impacting our citizens who are already mightily taxed. We already have $610 million if the General Assembly adopts the amendments that the governor has recommended, and he's recommending $50 million more on top of that for school construction grants and loans. So hopefully our legislators will cooperate with that. The revenue from a tax increase could indirectly be released into funding for other purposes. That happens quite frequently. And some localities already have. Orange is one, I believe, based on just a cursory look. We have our state 4.5%, but then we have an additional 4% in prepared food tax. So we're already at 8% here in Orange on taxes with no additional offset to income or property tax. So according to the governor, $1.5 billion of annual tax income increases could happen for Virginians. On the flip side of that, there's some power to the argument that if you make it a referendum, then the citizens themselves decide if they want to approve this or not. When you say, let's add another tax, it makes me super nervous.
I would say, Mrs. Dawson, that we do have the ability to at least work with our Board of Supervisors or communicate to them that we don't want to have an open-ended, never-ending type of 1 cent tax. And we can also define that with exceptions such as we don't put that 1 cent tax on those prepared meals. So there are some ways to get around some of your concerns, but my primary consideration is that it does allow the constituents and the members within this county to make that decision.
I would
agree with your concerns. I would agree with your concerns. I would not be for, a tax increase, just across the board. But I do have citizens and, constituents come up to me, Jack, I would pay a little bit more if I knew it was going to education or if I knew it was going to A, B, or C. So I never see a downside in putting something, to the voters and let them decide, moving forward. So that was the one piece. The LCI one is, to me, the biggest one. That is the
if the legislative committee does anything, it's please fix the stinking funding formula. It's so ridiculous.
Correct.
And they need to stop doing anything else until that's done, education-wise. This is your job. Get this done and leave everything else alone. Fix it.
So I have a couple, not really questions, but kind of a broad range here. But again, I'm kind of leaning towards Ms. Dawson as far as implementing any kind of additional tax. The LCI thing, I think 100% is crazy. We should be able to determine as a school division how those are appropriated. The other thing that the one major thing that I do have a problem with is the state doing it. Putting in another, code law stating that we have to do something, or even though that it's still up to the community, now we still have to go through the process of, do we want this at all, number one, but now we're being required by the state to actually go that process.
Not necessarily. They are giving us the option. It's not a requirement.
So do we really need it in writing from the state?
Currently, if they don't provide it within the budget and with the SB 1307, we don't have that option. So this is the only mechanism to allow us to go to our local constituents with a referendum and ask the question.
I think, isn't it currently, there are 6 or 7 divisions that have gotten it passed
Yes.
through the state legislature that currently do it. I don't remember the list of who they are, but
So we could do it at a local level if we felt that we needed it.
We could, apparently, others have,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I
we
would-
could petition the state to allow us to, if that,
Yeah, I think that, to me personally, the more we can keep it local, the better.
I absolutely agree.
So if that's something that we're able to do locally and not have to go through the state to get that information.
It's not. The state has to give us their approval, which means we have to get a veto override or bring it back next year. at the state level. Someone would have to bring it
But
back.
we could implement that ourselves, not implement it per se, but actually we could go to the state as a county and say we would like to implement this tax.
Not at this point, not unless the state approves that little piece that says we
But
will
other
allow.
counties have done that?
Yes. And I haven't looked into it far enough to tell you how they or why they were able to do that. But
Okay.
at this point, there are just some special exceptions to the overall rule.
Okay, all right.
So as an example, if we didn't have the funding, we didn't have the money to build the CTE facility, could we petition to say we would like to see if our county will approve a 1 cent, whatever it is, tax?
1 cent
Use-
sales
What's
tax.
it called? Is it
Sales tax.
sales?
Yeah.
Use- There's a use
Sales.
thing in there too, I thought. I'd have to read
It
it.
is a sales tax. I don't know about the
Okay.
use piece. I'd have to read too. It is not a property tax at all.
No. Or real estate.
Or real estate.
yeah.
And again, we can define the parameters within that referendum. Not us, but the school, the Board of Supervisors
Sure,
would
right.
have that ability to.
Okay, all right. All right. Anything else?
I believe the tax is on retail sales.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and there's 9 localities across the Commonwealth that have petitioned, I would suspect, and have been able to have this. And then there's been a few that have tried, for instance, Stafford, and have failed to have it. So essentially, the bill gives localities the ability to seek via a referendum whether or not the constituents would accept a 1% retail sales tax to support capital school construction projects. And so you have Charlotte, Gloucester, Halifax, Henry, Mecklenburg, Northampton, Patrick County, Pennsylvania, and the city of Danville.
Thank you. So again, this is just a letter as a school board member and member of the Orange County School Board's Legislative Committee to our legislatures and requesting their support.
I have no issue with the letter, and I just want to clarify, a couple of things. So Sandy is not advocating for a tax.
No, I understand that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're clear.
Thank
She's
you.
not advocating for a tax. What she's advocating for is getting our local state elected officials to basically say, allow us to put a referendum and allow our constituents to decide locally if we want to do this or not. So anyway, just clarify.
And just to clarify again, we can still do that without this bill being passed. We have the ability as Orange County to petition the state to say, we need money to build a,
I actually
CTE as
believe that
example.
we do,
well, the 9
Dr.
other
Hornick-
divisions did.
Right, Dr. Hornick, I think is going to have, more information about that. I think this path probably streamlines it a little bit more, but we still do have the path for it. The supervisors would have to be involved
Right.
with the, you said nine localities?
Correct.
So they would have to be involved and get that on the ballot.
I just, my instinct is, as Mrs. Anderson said, I prefer the ground-up method instead of the top-down method. Fix the LCI. Leave the rest of it alone.
I would love for you to participate, both of you to participate. Anyone that's interested in our legislative committee meeting, once we determine whether or not we're going to be
We can only do 2
going
weeks,
forward.
right?
We would have to, we would have to have it a public availability, but I would encourage you to be part of that conversation, and definitely part of the conversation, putting some pressure on our legislators to do the right thing and address the JLOC recommendations in the LCI. Absolutely.
So my question, Ms. Harrington, can we separate the two?
They are separate. They're completely separate.
But on the letter that you were submitting, is it all one letter?
It is all one letter.
But that's what I'm saying, can we separate that as 2 separate letters? focusing on the LCI and the JLARC on one, and then the SB 10 on the second one.
We absolutely can, if that is the direction that you would like. I kind of threw one sentence into my letter regarding the LCI because I wanted the legislators to understand
How
that our
important it is.
concern that that has not been taken care of. So it can be either way.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're willing to do so, for me, the biggest problem and priority they need to have is fix, Ms. Dawson said it better than I do. Just, you need to fix the
Yeah,
LCI.
fix what's broken already before you give us new rules. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I will adjust that a little bit to
yeah,
make that
appreciate it.
fully understandable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So everybody's good with going forward? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is comment time, right?
Yes,
Okay.
comment time.
Just one comment. This came from something I was reading again this week. A board member who's a friend of mine, the chair of a board in Virginia, said that their board had passed, I don't know if it's a resolution or just an agreement, that 50% of their board meeting time would be focused on student academic achievement. Yes. Because what you talk about in your meetings is what your community knows you care about. And that just really hit me. And I think if we go back and look at our board recordings, we're probably not hitting that 50% mark on academic achievement. And that's our North Star. So I'd just like to nudge us towards that a little bit more. And just a comment. I think it's an important thing for us to focus on because that's why we're here. And I know there's the run-of-the-mill mundane contracts and all the stuff that we have to deal with, but every meeting, I think, should have some sort of academic achievement priority focus, in my always humble opinion.
Ms. Dawson, I absolutely agree with you, and I think that part of our new governance process and structure will support that also. And one of the things that you and I have spoken about, and I have spoken about at this board, is aligning our governance process with student achievement. So absolutely, thank you for that.
If I could add just one more thing, and this is just a personal note. You all can see that we're wearing our Joshua's Fight shirts tonight, and I'd just like to express publicly my most sincere appreciation and admiration to Mrs. Quintern for her time on the board. And she's courageous, a woman of courage and conviction, and love her or hate her, we all know how that has gone. She stands for what she believes in, and that has to be admired, in my opinion, regardless of what your side that you choose to be on. I think we're all on the side of the students, in my opinion. And the fact that she needed to step down for the reason that she did is just heartbreaking. And so just on a personal level, all of my thoughts and prayers are with the Quintern family and with Joshua as he fights this fight. And Chelsea, if you're listening, we thank you sincerely for your service to this board and to Orange County, and we're praying for Joshua.
And I would also like to make sure that the public knows that she was integral in starting the legislative committee that we currently do meet 4 times a year quarterly and advocate directly with our legislators. So thank you for that, and thank you for your passion in trying to do what you felt was best for this board, and God bless you and your son. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Is there anything else? Do we need any more closed session?
No, ma'am, we
We're
do
good?
not. Yes, ma'am, we are good.
All right, well then I will move to number.
Did we certify our closed session? Okay.
Yes, we did. All right, then I'm moving on. Oh my, it is 7:47. I will adjourn this meeting.
When are we
Thank
ever
you.
out of here before 8? Awesome.